The White Death has returned! The White Death has returned!
The man is Heinrich Kramer, and he is writing the most blood-soaked book of the 15th century, the Malleus Maleficarum, the Witch's Hammer, a book that would torment the world for a century after its release, and be responsible for the torture and death of 70,000 innocent people.
Treating of three necessary concomitants of witchcraft, which are the devil, a witch, and the permission of Almighty God.
He goes on to say that female empowerment would bring on the apocalypse. He even made the title of the book Female, to hammer home his point. Malleus Maleficarum is a hammer used only on women.
So, we must find the mark. We must find the mark.
Greetings, fellow worker slaves, podcasting at 128 kilobits from the Fortress of Squalitude, located not far from the Redneck Mecca. This is the Atheist in the Trailer Park podcast. I'm your host, Tucker. Professor Fuzznuts is somewhere. Haven't seen Lord Squeakington today. Yes, it's a podcast hosted by a guy and these cats. Get over it. And this is a Hexenhammer episode, hopefully. I'll get to that in a bit. Where Skullbeard and I read a selection from the medieval witch hunting manual, Hexenhammer. And this section that we're going to be reading is kind of interesting, actually. Unfortunately, one thing that I hope to do but could not do is find, because we talk about this at one point, and I don't know if it'll go out in this episode or the next episode of this stuff that I do. We're reading something in in Hexenhammer, and it's reminds me of the hysterical Cuban movie Juan of the Dead. Yes, it's a Cuban film that's a zombie picture, and it was made about 10 years ago. It is funny as fuck. It is in Spanish. There are subtitles, and I could not find a dubbed version because there's a scene, and I spent a good 10 minutes probably talking about it with Skullbeard because it is just so fucking funny. If you like Shaun of the Dead, you will love Juan of the Dead. Anyway, as you probably have all heard, it snowed in my neck of the woods. And speaking as somebody who grew up in Ohio in the 80s, I will say this is actually snow. It is, in my area, we got about 5 to 7 inches, roughly 11 to 13, 14 centimeters for those of you in the civilized parts of the world, which is really significant. I can't think of the last time we got that much snow. It's probably been close to a decade since that happened. So I'm off of work today because it's Martin Luther King Day, and I'm doubting if we're going to be working tomorrow because of the snow. Oh, Fuzznuts has decided to join us. Hey, buddy. We'll see what happens. And I want to thank Scott Kaiser for reminding me that I needed to get Vaseline because it is fucking cold. It's 14 degrees in freedom units. I don't know what that is in civilized units, but it is well below the point of freezing. So it's cold. And I am very, very lucky, it seems, because I was really worried that I wouldn't have heat because of something that happened the other day. I mean, I have the space heaters, but, they only do so much. And, I mean, they keep the house about 30 to 40 degrees above the outside ambient temperature. So when you're talking an outside temperature of 14 degrees, it would, 30 some odd degrees above that's still in the mid 50s inside the house. But I had these little propane heaters that I had gotten off of Amazon, and they have to have, for reasons I don't understand, they have to have an adapter to hook them up to, the little compact propane cylinders like you'd have for a propane torch or a, a camping stove. And they do not connect to a propane cylinder like one would have for a barbecue grill. So, and of course I didn't discover that till after I'd ordered these little heaters, and I had got them a couple of months ago, because I didn't want to be in the situation where I was in last year, where I'd gotten that bad batch of kerosene and I couldn't run the kerosene heaters. Because those things do keep the house warm. So I got those adapters and tested them out. The heaters out a couple of times. They didn't work great, but they were better than nothing, and I didn't have to fire up the kerosene heater, which really concerned me because basically there's only one place I can get kerosene easily, and the last time I'd gotten a bad batch. So the adapters were highly rated on Amazon, like 500 plus positive reviews. And so Saturday night, I think it was, I'm like, well, I need to probably want to fire these up, get the house a little warm. And I go to turn the valve on the adapter, and it breaks on both of them. I'm like, fuck. And I go to Amazon. I can't return the thing because it's the kind of thing that they don't accept returns on, and you can't get a refund. But they were only $20 or so a piece, so it's not like I was out a huge amount of money. And I was trying to find others, and there's not too many available that would really work for the type of little heaters I have. And I noticed, I decided to check on that one that I ordered to see what if there were any negative reviews were. Sure enough, the negative reviews all started cropping up, a couple of weeks ago. So it would have been in a window after I bought them, but before this time I tried to use them. And they all said the same thing. They work great a couple of times, and then the valve breaks, and you're fucked. I was like, oh, shit. So I found some replacements that are different, and I've ordered those, and in theory they'll be here tomorrow. I don't know if that's actually going to be the case or not. But I went ahead and got some kerosene. Figuring that, as bad as it might be, it's still better than me freezing in the trailer or possibly freezing to death. But the good news is that it appears the kerosene I got is fine. Because while there was some fuel left in the heater, it wasn't nearly as smoky as it had been, and that has quickly passed now that I burned more of that kerosene. So we'll see. I only fired the one heater up. I did not fire up the other one. I'm going to have to do that here at some point, I'm sure, because of how cold it's going to be in the next few days. My other issue is that I was worried about pipes freezing under the trailer with it being so cold. And as you may know, I don't have water that I turn on very often because I got leaks that I can't patch for complicated reasons. So I have the water off most of the time. That way I don't do damage to the trailer. But, I turn it on, the water on, a couple of times a day so I can take a shower and flush the toilets and do a few other things. Then I cut it back off. And on days where, I'm just being slovenly and not going to leave the trailer, I don't even bother turning the water on. So that gives the, hopefully some of the wood and stuff that's gotten wet when the water's on a chance to dry out and lessen some of the damage. And the other issue I have is that the only electrical outlet outside the trailer no longer works. And it's a complicated rewiring issue that I just have not been able to get to, and I may have to have an electrician, and that costs money that I don't have. Because normally what I would do is I have a halogen light, work light, that, those things get really, really hot, and I would stick that underneath the trailer, and the heat from that would, hopefully keep the pipes from freezing. It has in the past, and it would also make sure that feral cats in the neighborhood had a warm place that they could go when it gets really bad like this. And so I worried about it, but I didn't know what to do. And then I remembered, I got some pool noodles that I bought for insulating the pipes, and I had one left over. And so what I did was I cracked open a window, put the power cord, my extension cord, through the pool noodle, and then shut that in the window to seal it up. It's not perfect. I do get some a little bit of cold air seepage in, but nothing like I would have if I didn't have that at all. And so now I've got that light on underneath the trailer. Will that be enough to keep it from freezing? I don't know. And I know they say, you just leave the taps on and that keeps things freezing. 1 year, when it got about this cold, I had the taps cracked, and that was still not enough to keep the pipes from freezing. I didn't get any damage, but they did not freeze. But they did freeze. And I had to stay home. I remember that very well because I had to stay home from work. And because, I knew it was going to get warm enough during the day. And if the pipes thawed out and shit broke, I didn't want to be at work and not be able to cut the water off, come home to have trailer that was damaged. The December of the year that I first moved into this trailer park, around Christmas time, it was bitterly cold, and there was a family who had gone for the holidays. And while they were gone, a pipe burst in their trailer, and it flooded everything, and nobody cut the water off to their trailer for days. And so there was this big batch of ice. Their trailer was on the corner of the entrance to the trailer park, basically, and it was on a high elevation, so the water ran out of their trailer down the the road in the trailer park and froze. And I mean, it was thick ice. There was a lot of water. I can't imagine what that was. But the damage, apparently wherever the water lines broke, it didn't do serious damage to the trailer because that same trailer is still there. And the thing I remember at the time is I had a car with front wheel drive, and I was still having trouble getting up and out of the trailer park because of that ice. So basically I have done everything I can think of that's practical for me at this point in time to keep me from freezing to death. And so far, so good. The challenge will be later on this week and next week when we're going to have a couple of days in the single digits. Like tomorrow is going to be in the single digits. But I imagine that, tomorrow's going to be in the single digits until after the sun comes up. And the same is true of Wednesday. And then this coming weekend, it's going to be freezing cold again. But the week after that, it'll be warmer. Unusually warm, but the odds of me freezing to death when it's 55 degrees outside, pretty low. Okay, one more thing before we get to Skullbeard and I reading from Hex and Hammer is I want to thank Rod Pyle for his mention of the pod on his show This Week in Space, even if he did botch the name a bit. But considering his show is aiming for a more mainstream audience, it's surprising he even made reference to it at all. So, all right. Now, let's get to Skullbeard and I and Hex and Hammer.
All right, the second part, treating of the methods by which witchcraft is inflicted and how it may be auspiciously removed. Resolved in 2 only questions, but divided into many chapters. Because of course it is.
Remember what I said?
Of those against whom the power of witches availeth not at all. The second main part of this work deals with the methods of procedure adopted by witches for the performance of their witchcraft, and these are distinguished under 18 heads. Proceeding from 2 chief difficulties. The first of these 2, dealt with in the beginning, concerns protective remedies by which a man is rendered immune from witchcraft. The second, dealt with at the end, concerns curative remedies by which those who are bewitched can be cured. For as Aristotle says in Physics 4, prevention and cure are related to one another and are accidentally matters of causation. In this way, the whole foundation of this horrible heresy may be made clear.
Wow.
Yeah, I know, that's a mouthful. Fuck.
Well, I'm also thinking that, there's like potential reference to that 8 Heads in a Duffel Bag movie.
Perhaps.
And homeopathy.
Mm-hmm. Oh, God. Please don't get me started.
In the above 2 divisions, the following points will be principally emphasized. First, the initiation of witches and the profession of sacrilege. Second, the progress of their method of working and of their horrible observances. Third, the preventative protections against their witchcrafts. And because we are now dealing with matters related to morals and behavior, and there is no need for a variety of arguments and disquisitions. What a show. Since those matters which now follow under their headings are sufficiently discussed in the foregoing questions, therefore we pray God that the reader will not look for proofs in every case, because you won't find it, because this is all bullshit, but excuse me. Since it is enough to adduce examples that had been personally seen or heard. Oh, yeah. The plural of anecdote is data. Yeah, that's absolutely what we're going for. Or are accepted at the word of credible witnesses.
Credulity is not a virtue.
That's a dark thought.
In the first of the points mentioned, 2 matters will be chiefly examined. First, the various methods of enticement adopted by the devil himself. Sweet! Second, the various ways in which witches profess their heresy. And in the second of the main points, 6 matters will be examined in order, relating to the procedure of witchcraft and its cure. First, the practices of witches with regard to themselves and their own bodies. Second, their practice with regard to themselves and their own... Second, their practices with regard to other men. Other men. Third, those relating to beasts. Yes. Fuck. It's gonna be one of those, is it? Fourth, the mischief they do to the fruits of the earth. Fifth, those kinds of witchcraft which are practiced by men only and not by women. Sixth, Sixth, the question of removing witchcraft and how those who are bewitched may be cured. The first question, therefore, is divided into 18 heads, since, in so many ways, are their observances varied and multiplied. Yeah, okay. This is gonna be buckle up. I gotta put a seatbelt on this fucking chair. That's what I gotta do.
The thing about with the beasts, all I can that pops into my head, and there's no way I'll be able to find it because YouTube is fucking broken. There was a sketch on In Living Color where they were doing the fundamentalist preacher thing, and oh god, I can't think of his name. Anyways, one of the guys is being a preacher, TV preacher, and he's saying, and today we're running a special on all the sins that begin with B, and he starts naming off a whole bunch of them. Like bigamy, blasphemy, and Jim Carrey's like even the big B, and of course, by process of elimination, the only B sin they haven't mentioned is bestiality. And dude is like, my son, some things even God cannot forgive. But knowing what we know about Jim Carrey, bestiality probably is not out of the question. Him being an anti-vaxxer and all?
Oh, yeah. He's kind of lost the plot.
Yeah. It is asked whether a man can be so blessed by the good angels that he cannot be bewitched by witches in any of the ways that follow. And it seems that he cannot, for it has already been proved that even the blameless and innocent and the just are often afflicted by devils, as was Job, and many innocent children, as well as countless other just men, are seen to be bewitched, although not to the same extent as sinners.
Yeah. You can run, but you can't hide.
Yeah, but you can be bewitched, but you're still not as bad as the people who aren't bewitched who do.
It's a mild bewitching.
Right.
Yeah.
Do you smell toast? For they are not afflicted in the perdition of their souls, but only in their worldly goods in their bodies.
Just where it counts.
Yeah, okay. I didn't sin. It was my penis that sinned.
The devil made me do it.
My spirit was not in my penis when it grew erect. It put itself in that woman, in that harlot. But the contrary is indicated by the confessions of witches, namely that they cannot injure everybody, but only those whom they learn through the information of devils to be destitute of divine help. So basically, the witches have figured out that the devils tell the witches, Yeah, God said, fuck that guy, so you can do whatever you want to him. Thanks, Jeebus.
Pretty much. Okay, now I was unaware that there was a question, but here's the answer.
Yeah, I know.
Answer. There are 3 classes of men blessed by God, whom that detestable race cannot endure with their witchcraft. Wait, what detestable race could that possibly be?
Gosh, I don't know. This was written in medieval Europe. Surely in a more enlightened period of time, because they were all closer to God, and they, yeah. And they would never use the thing that Jews were God killers or anything like that.
No, they would never.
Even though it was actually the Italians that nailed the guy up.
I know, right? Somebody's getting a bad rap. And the first are those who administer public justice against them or prosecute them in any public official capacity. The second are those who, according to the tradition and holy rites of the Church, make lawful use of the power and virtue which the Church, by her exorcisms, furnishes in the aspersion of holy water, the taking of consecrated salt, the carrying of blessed candles on the day of the purification of Our Lady, of palm leaves upon Palm Sunday, and men who thus fortify themselves are acting so that the powers of devils are diminished, and of these we shall speak later. The third class are those who, in various and infinite ways, are blessed by the holy angels. Okay.
Yeah. Palm Sunday, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah. But when you're a teenage boy, that takes on a wholly different connotation.
Whenever I see somebody with the little smudge on their forehead, I'm like, let me get that for you.
The reason for this is in the first class will be given and proved by various examples. For since, as St. Paul says, all power, if from God, and a sword for the avenging of the wicked and the retribution of the good, it is no wonder that devils are kept at bay when justice is being done to avenge that horrible crime.
What crime?
Make any of that make sense.
Yeah, I know.
I dare you. I double dare you.
I really got to warm up before doing these mental gymnastics. I'm going to pull something. To the same effect, the doctors note that there are 5 ways in which the devil's power is hindered, either wholly or in part. First, by a limit fixed by God on his power, as is seen in Job 1 and 2. Another example is the case of the man we read of in the Formicarius of Nider, who had confessed to a judge that he had invoked the devil in order that he might kill an enemy of his, or do him bodily harm, or strike him dead with lightning. Kill him, hurt him, or kill him with lightning. Okay, sure, makes sense. And he said, when I had invoked the devil, that I might commit such a deed with his help, he answered me that he was unable to do any of those things because the man had good faith and diligently defended himself with the sign of the cross, and that therefore he could not harm him in his body, but the most he could do was to destroy an 11th part of the fruit of his lands. Wow. Okay, so all I gotta do is the spectacles, testicles, wallet, and watch thing, and I'm golden?
Apparently so.
Huh.
And Formicarius is the Latin word for ant colony.
Oh, nice. Okay, cool.
And that book is basically the same kind of shit we're reading, only it's an allegory comparing human society to an ant colony. And large sections of it are going to show up in the text that we will be reading in the future in this book.
Oh, wonderful.
Because, plagiarism really wasn't a thing back then.
it isn't really now, but some people make a big
Unless
deal
you're
out
a
of it.
black professor at Harvard.
Black female professor at Harvard.
Yeah.
Well, not just a prof. Wasn't she the president?
Yeah, she was the president, yeah.
Well, damn woke liberals.
And never mind that the guy who got her fired, his wife,
also
from
plagiarized.
Wikipedia, in 2009, shortly after Wikipedia was launched.
Uh-huh.
So it's not like it was,
Yeah.
Oh, God.
Well, what they were calling plagiarism for the Harvard president, as I understand it, was poorly attributed or incorrectly formatted. It's mostly blown the fuck out of proportion.
Or basically the equivalent of writing "Good Night, Sweet Prince" and failing to mention that came from Shakespeare. Mm-hmm. Even though everybody knows that shit, right? And it's not like you're claiming it's an original thought or anything. And what gets me is...
shit, half the stuff I say is without attribution.
Shit, yeah. Well, and I know I have posted a link at various points in time. I don't remember if I've done it to anything related to the pod or not, but definitely on the social media accounts to the pod. I'm on this message board, and there was this guy. They finally kicked him off because, well, he was just a little too fascist.
Okay.
Who, he was, just this indescribable idiot. And,
why am I not surprised?
He claimed to be, like this history expert, blah, blah, blah. And, he would, like if you would prove him wrong on something by citing Wikipedia, he's like, well, I could never get away with any of, citing Wikipedia in any of my academic stuff. And then you find out that, like, none of his academic stuff even reached the quality standards that Wikipedia has.
Nice. Very nice.
All right, and brace yourself. Secondly, it is hindered by the application of some exterior force, as in the case of Balaam's ass. Verse 22. I'm assuming that's where the dude's donkey talks to him.
Yeah, talking donkeys. Either that or God was talking out of this guy's ass.
Not that there's any difference. Thirdly, by some externally performed miracle of power, and there are some who are blessed with a unique privilege, as will be shown later in the case of the third class of men who cannot be bewitched. Fourthly, by the good providence of God, who disposes each thing severally and causes a good angel to stand in the devil's way, as when Asmodeus killed the 7 husbands of the Virgin Sarah, but did not kill Tobias. Man, that's gotta suck ass. You get married to some chick, and before you can even have sex with her, you get killed. You go through all the bullshit of weddings, and you don't even get laid out of it.
Life just ain't fair, man.
Although, man, 7 husbands, Pleiades, 7 stars.
Yeah, could be.
Yeah, I know I've read that on the pod, the stuff about the 7 husbands of the Virgin of Sarah, but fuck me if I'm going to go look for that shit, because I've had enough trauma in my life as it is.
Yep.
I don't need to revisit any of it.
And no. Fifthly, it is sometimes due to the caution of the devil himself, for at times he does not wish to do hurt, in order that worse may follow from it. As, for example, when he could molest the excommunicated, but does not do so, as in the case of the excommunicated Corinthian, 1 Corinthians 5. in order that he may weaken the faith of the church in the power of such banishment. Therefore, we may similarly say that even if the administrators of public justice were not protected by divine power, yet the devils often of their own accord withdraw their support and guardianship from witches, either because they fear their conversion or because they desire and hasten their damnation.
Ooh.
Yeah, you think so, eh?
Oh. God damn you. No, I want the... Because the web is doing the old... it's making shit hard to find.
Oh, yeah.
There she is. There she is. So this is that Corinthians reference.
Uh-huh.
If you go back to the King James Version, which, of course, is the only one true version.
It's the worst version.
Yeah. But it's kind of akin to where they pull the shit about speaking in tongues. Mm-hmm. Because 1 Corinthians 5, that in everything ye are enriched by him in all utterance and in all knowledge. And I should point out...
yeah, I'm going to go with what?
I can't remember if it's Pawn All the Things on Blue Sky or Popap, but they made a post where they were making something came up and they said, Pontius Pilate was recalled because the locals complained he had executed their Messiah. No, not that one. Another one.
Uh-huh.
I haven't researched it, but it's like, that sounds about right for that. And that reminds me, damn, I gotta get the clip of that. Have you seen Juan of the Dead?
Juan of the Dead? No, I have not.
You absolutely have to find it. It is a Cuban zombie movie.
Sweet.
Yeah, and I'm gonna give spoiler. The end of the movie is dude fighting zombies while the Sid Vicious version of My Way plays. But anyways,
nice.
I mean, there's great scenes where he has like a Ghostbusters service, right? Uh-huh. Where he's he kills zombies, right? And his phone rings and he's like, "One of the dead, we kill your beloved." But anyways, he's talking about, well, I survived, and he makes reference to I think it's the Marianas boat list, and then he makes reference to some other thing in Cuban history, and he goes, "No, I survived that other thing and that other thing," stuff that everybody knows about but doesn't dare mention by name because it's bad for them. I'm going to have to get clips of that and put that in this pod. Not maybe this episode, but in future episodes. It is a great fucking movie. It is better than Shaun of the Dead. And Shaun of the Dead is a great movie.
Oh, yeah. So I've seen that one several times.
Yeah. And how they got away with some of the shit they did in that movie in Shaun of the Dead, I don't know. Because, well, I won't spoil any more than what I already have. But trust me, even if you like nothing else about the movie, just the scene of Sid Vicious screaming out "My way" while dude is battling zombies is worth all of it.
Nice.
This fact is proved also by actual experience, for the aforesaid doctor affirms that witches have borne witness that it is a fact of their own experience that merely because they have been taken by officials of public justice, they have immediately lost all their power of witchcraft. Or, hear me out, they never had it to begin with.
No, couldn't be.
No. For example, a judge named Peter, whom we have mentioned before, wished his officials to arrest a certain witch called Stadlin. But their hands were seized with so great a trembling, and such a nauseous stench came into their nostrils that they gave up hope of daring to touch the witch. Well, depending on the circumstances in that era, if somebody was coming to arrest me, I'd probably shit myself, and it would be foul. As anyone with irritable bowel can attest. And the judge commanded them, saying, "You may safely arrest the wretch, for when he is touched by the hand of public justice, he will lose all the power of his iniquity." And I need to point out gender right there. Because in this era, witches, vampires, wizards, and even werewolves were all considered kind of the same thing.
Yeah. Stadlin, who's described as Grandis Maleficus, a most notorious warlock, lived in Boltagen, town in the Duchy and Diocese of Lausanne. John Nider sat as assessor at his trial. See the Formicarius, Chapter 3.
And so the event proved, for he was taken and burned for many witchcrafts perpetrated by him, which are mentioned here and there in this work in their appropriate places.
And many more such experiences have many more such experiences have happened to us inquisitors in the exercise of our inquisitorial office, which would turn the mind of the reader to wonder if it were expedient to relate them. Why did you just waste 3 fucking lines of text for that sentence? But since self-praise is sordid and mean, it is better to pass them over in silence than to incur the stigma of boastfulness and conceit. But we must accept those which have become so well known that they cannot be concealed. Yeah.
Okay. Not long ago, in the town of Rastobon, the magistrates had condemned a witch to be burned, and were asked why it was that we inquisitors were not afflicted like other men with witchcraft. They answered that witches had often tried to injure them, but could not. And being asked the reason for this, they answered that they did not know, unless it was because the devils had warned them against doing so.
Yeah, sure.
For they said it would be impossible to tell how many times they have pestered us by day and by night, now in the form of apes. Like they would know what the fucking ape looked like.
Yeah.
Not of dogs or goats, disturbing us with their cries and insults. Fetching, not felching. Fetching us from our beds at their blasphemous prayers, so that we have stood outside the window of their prison, which was so high that no one could reach it without the longest of ladders. And then they have seemed to stick the pins with which their headcloth was fastened violently into their heads. But praise be to Almighty God, who in his pity and for no merit of our own has preserved us as unworthy public servants of the justice of the faith.
It's an unlikely story, but
Toast. I'm smelling toast, man. Probably a problem.
The reason in the case of the second class of men is self-evident, for the exorcisms of the church are for this very purpose, and they're entirely... You gonna live?
Maybe.
All right. The reason in the case of the second class of men is self-evident, for the exorcisms of the faith are for this very purpose, and are entirely efficacious remedies for preserving oneself from the injuries of witches. So we're so good at this.
But it is asked in what manner a man ought to use such. Sorry, I'm blocked. What you can't see at home is somebody was walking across me and decided to show his ass to me and the camera.
Fucking guy.
Yeah. Let me just start that over again. But if it is asked in what manner a man ought to use such protections, we must speak first of those that are used without the uttering of sacred words, and then of the actual sacred invocations. For in the first place, it is lawful in any seat, habitation of men or beasts to sprinkle holy water for the safety and securing of men and beasts with the invocation of the most holy Trinity and a paternoster. For it is said in the office of exorcism that whenever it is sprinkled, all uncleanliness is purified, all harm is repelled, and no pestilent spirit can abide there, etc. For the Lord saves both man and beast, according to the prophet, each in his degree. Hang on, I'm going to work along.
Oh, what the hell? Okay. So sprinkle in holy water for the safety and securing of men and beasts with the invocation of the most holy Trinity and a paternoster. What the fuck is a paternoster, he asks. A paternoster lift is a passenger elevator which consists of a chain of open compartments, usually each designed for two people, that move slowly in a loop up and down inside a building without stopping. Passengers can step on or off at any floor they like. What?
No.
No.
The
Lord's Prayer. It's a prayer in Christianity. There we go.
But let's not forget that
I like the other one better.
Numerous studies have shown that holy water is contaminated with shit.
Yep.
So it's not exactly purification.
Yeah, well, if you're still shitting in an outhouse, there's probably fucking polio in it too. So, but
indoor plumbing is what made polio dangerous. Not the outhouses.
Yeah. I'm just saying.
As George Carlin said, we didn't worry about polio because we were swimming in raw shit.
Yep. Secondly, just as the first must necessarily be sprinkled, so in the case of a blessed candle, although it is more appropriate to light it, the wax of it may with advantage be sprinkled about dwelling houses. And thirdly, it is expedient to place or to burn consecrated herbs in those rooms where they can best be consumed in some convenient place. Man, I haven't smoked in the house in a quarter of a fucking century.
Yeah. Okay, now I'm going to have to remember to go find the clip from All in the Family where Archie Bunker's bitching about the priests sprinkling incest all over the place.
Yeah, if they're sprinkling incest, we got a problem.
And the other thing is, when I was a kid, me and a buddy went down in the basement of the house, and he shut the door in part of the basement. And I was like, dude, you can't shut that door. He's like, why? I says, because we can't open it from this side.
Awesome.
Right. So, being like 9, our solution was, well, we'll light some candles that were down here and hope that my mom here smells the smoke and comes down to see what's going on. Yeah, okay, that didn't work out so well, but I got to spend the next couple of days scraping the wax off the basement floor.
Oh, fuck. All right.
Yeah. Now, it happened in the city of Spires Is there an actual city named Spires, or is that a reference to something? I have no idea. In the same year that this book was begun, that a certain devout woman held conversation with a suspected witch, and after the manner of women, they used abusive words to each other. Oh, yeah, like no dude has ever said, suck my dick, motherfucker. But in the night, she wished to put her little suckling child in its cradle and remembered her encounter that day with the suspected witch. So, fearing some danger to the child, she placed consecrated herbs under it, sprinkled it with holy water, put a little blessed salt to its lips, signed it with the sign of the cross, and diligently secured the cradle. Okay. About the middle of the night, she heard the child crying, and as women do, wished to embrace the child. Jesus fucking Christ, man. I mean, it's a baby. It's crying. You know, you...
Stick something in its mouth, shut it up.
Right, right. And the cradle onto her bed. Maybe lift, I don't know.
Yeah,
she lifted the candle, and indeed, but could not embrace the child because he was not there. The poor woman, in terror and bitterly weeping for the loss of her child, lit a light and found the child in a corner under a chair, crying but unhurt.
Because the plural of anecdote is data.
Yeah. Well, I'm just thinking one of my earliest memories is my parents are gone. Mm-hmm. My two brothers are babysitting me. I'm supposed to be in bed. I climb out of my crib. Mm-hmm. So that I had to be like 2 years old, somewhere around there, 2, 3?
Maybe, somewhere up there, yeah.
Mm-hmm. And I walked out, and I went into the living room, and because that's where the TV was, and that's where they were, and that's where the noise was, and that's where I wanted to be.
Mm-hmm. Sounds about right.
Yep. That would have been like 1971, maybe, at the least.
Story for story. In this, it may be seen what virtue there is in the exorcism of the church against the snares of the devil. It is manifest that Almighty God in his mercy and wisdom, which extend from end to end, watches over... What? His wisdom and mercy extend from end to end? Watches over the...
Double ender.
Yeah, sounds like it. Watches over the deeds of those wicked men, and that he gently directs the witchcraft of devils, so that when they try to diminish and weaken the faith, they, on the contrary, strengthen it and make it more firmly rooted in the hearts of many. For the faithful may derive much profit from these evils, when, by reason of devils' works, the faith is made strong, God's mercy is seen, and his power manifested, and men are led into his keeping and to the reverence of Christ's passion, and are enlightened by the ceremonies of the church. Sure they are.
Yeah. There lived in a town of Wiesenthal a certain mayor who was bewitched with the most terrible pains and bodily contortions, and he discovered, not by the means of other witches, but from his own experience, how that witchcraft had been practiced on him. For he said he was in the habit of fortifying himself every Sunday with blessed salt and holy water, but that he had neglected to do so on one occasion owing to the celebration of somebody's marriage, and on that same day he was bewitched. I want to point out, because probably not something most people know, terrible pains and bodily contortions can be a sign of arsenic poisoning.
Oh. Okay, how convenient.
there is a really fascinating book called The Case of Abraham Lincoln.
Okay.
And it is about a murder trial before Lincoln became president that he was the defense attorney in.
Okay.
And it was one of those classic tales of hot young wife marries rich old guy.
Of course.
And
Like you do.
rich old guy ends up getting murdered, and of course everybody suspects the hot young wife. Lincoln managed to get her found not guilty, but it was like the most sensational trial in Illinois in the 1800s. And dude had, he was having all these health problems and stuff. And, the author of the book basically says, sounds like arsenic poisoning. Here's the reasons why. But for some reason, even though the people who were investigating things did the kind of stuff you would expect them to do to prove it was arsenic poisoning, they still failed to realize it was arsenic poisoning. But it would, muscle paralysis and horrible pains, bodily contortions. That sounds consistent with what that guy had. Whether or not it's the same, the mayor of this town was subjected to that, I don't know. But it's certainly a possibility. More likely that he was possessed by witches or cursed by witches or whatever.
Or being poisoned.
Yeah.
Yep. In Ratisbon, a man was being tempted by the devil in the form of a woman to copulate. Ha! Bastard. And became greatly disturbed when the devil would not desist. But it came into the poor man's mind that he ought to defend himself by taking blessed salt, as he had heard in a sermon. So he took some blessed salt on entering the bathroom, and the woman looked fiercely at him, and cursing whatever devil had taught him to do this, suddenly disappeared. For the devil can, with God's permission, present himself either in the form of a witch, or by possessing the body of an actual witch. Wow. So I can fake it, or not?
Okay. And now I'm going to... you'll forgive me. I have to dig into some esoteric music. That is appropriate if I can find it. Yep. I got to check. I don't know if you'll hear this or not. If I'll click the link, and if you don't hear it over this thing, I'll drop it to you. Come on.
Did you hear the one of the Dead trailer?
No, I did not.
Weird.
Well, I ain't hearing any of this. You hearing any music?
No.
Okay. I don't know if this is it or not, but I'll drop you the link. And it's kind of prophetic because it, if this is a song I'm thinking of, it makes references to Bill Cosby selling his soul out.
Oh, well, okay. Oh my God, it is the 80s.
Hey. Oh. I think this is it.
One day while sitting around blaming my hard dick on inflation,
Skip to about a minute 20.
I said I've got to have the hardest freaking bitch seem to come from nowhere. He had two small horns sticking up out of his hair, and his eyes and lips were fiery red. He said, I couldn't help but overhearing what you said. Yeah.
I can give you more pussy than you can dig with a
He
shovel.
said, I can give you more.
All you need to do is come fuck the devil.
And all you have to do is fuck the devil. Believe me, all this shit is on the level.
Come fuck the devil.
Oh, this is bad.
So let's grab your little brick kid.
Okay.
Yeah, that's... Woof, that's enough of that.
I'm gonna pause. I'm just gonna pause that because I don't want to. That's a rat hole.
Yeah.
But that I'm reasonably certain that is actually the song that I'm thinking of.
You experienced the 80s differently than I did.
Oh, God. Well, I know about that song because a buddy of mine who likes difficult listening music had a copy of that and or knew about that, and he was like, oh yeah, I was going to get this guy's whole catalog or something, and he never did for whatever reason. But oh shit, man. And god damn it, now I got to find this other thing because
It's less painful than reading this shit.
Yeah, well, there is a possibility. I have not dug through all of it, but there is a possibility that some shit me and some friends did in the recording studio when we were in college wound up in this mess.
Oh.
Mm-hmm. Wait, did it not copy the whole thing? I know it didn't show it there, but let me just paste and go. Is that? Yeah, okay. See, we had access to the recording studio at college, and one of the many things we did was a song that was called Requiem for Flopsy, where we took a Barber's Adagio for strings, and we did a bunch of tape manipulation with it, and then a friend of ours who was in the recording booth while me and Buddy were on a stage doing backing vocals.
Okay.
Made this recording about a friend who had a rather traumatic experience after he accidentally ran over a rabbit. And so anyways, you picture Barber's Adagio for strings playing forwards and backwards at various speeds, and then somebody goes, once upon a time, there was a cute, fuzzy little bunny rabbit named Flopsy. At which point, me and my friend, who were down on the stage, were screaming, Flopsy! And so it was this horrible thing about how the dude ran over the rabbit, and it left children. Left. He had a family and all this, and there's no welfare for rabbits. And And we made multiple copies of the recording, but none of us have copies anymore. And it apparently got played on a couple of college radio stations in California. So I'm hoping that somewhere buried in that archive is a copy of it, because it's just pretty fucking funny.
The good old Internet Archive.
So anyways, there's the link. I mean, it's 30 gigabytes. I don't expect anybody to find that anytime soon. And if they got it right, the name of the band that did that would be Lung. So the hell knows. Anyways, back to this garbage. But it came into the poor man's mind that he ought to defend himself by taking blessed salt. That wouldn't happen to be bath salts, would it?
Nope.
As he had heard in a sermon. So he took some blessed salt on entering the bathroom. I think we found the bath salts. And the woman looked fiercely at him, and cursing whatever devil had taught him to do this, suddenly disappeared. For the devil can, with God's permission, present himself either in the form of a witch or by possessing the body of an actual witch. Why would you worship a God who gives permission to his sworn enemy to do things?
I don't know. Why doesn't Batman kill the Joker? Yeah. There were also 3 companions walking along a road, and 2 of them were struck by lightning. The third was terrified when he heard voices speaking in the air. Let us strike him too. But another voice answered, We cannot, for today he has heard the words, the Word was made flesh, and he understood that he had been saved because he had that day heard Mass, and at the end of the Mass, the Gospel of St. John, in the beginning was the Word, etc. So going to church protects you from the devil? Allegedly.
I just want to point out that the one time in my life I actually was basically struck by lightning. I was sitting next to a friend of mine named John.
Okay. Sure, why not?
Yeah.
That's it for this episode of the Atheist in the Trailer Park podcast. You can subscribe to the show on iTunes. It's also on Stitcher, and most of the episodes are on YouTube. Follow the show on Twitter at tparkatheist, and it's on Facebook at facebook.com/trailerparkatheist. You can email me at trailerparkatheist@gmail.com. Show notes can be found at tparkatheist.blogspot.com. If you happen to like the podcast, please rate it on iTunes. If you'd like to donate to support the podcast, there's a donate button on the show notes page. You can also support the show on Patreon at patreon.com/TNTucker.
The podcast, there's a donate button on the show notes page. You can support it via Patreon at patreon.com/TNTucker. Thanks for listening.
Say goodnight, Fosnuts.
All I know is this violates every canon of respectable broadcasting.
Damned cat.